The Milwaukee Bucks are one of the most interesting franchises in professional sports today. A group of investors, including Mark Lassery, Wes Edens, and Jamie Dimon, purchased the franchise in 2014 for $550 million. But today, now just 8 years later, the franchise is reportedly worth $1.85 billion, according to Sportico. That's a compounded annual growth rate of 16%, compared to the S&P 500 at just 9% during the same time period. Now, there are a few reasons for this financial outperformance. They built a new $500 million arena with $250 million of public funding. They drafted Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they won the 2021 NBA championship. But also, they've become one of the most profitable NBA teams virtually overnight. Here are a few numbers from pre-pandemic that illustrate my point. The Milwaukee Bucks have watched their home attendance skyrocket from 13,500 in 2013 to nearly 18,000 people attending every home game in 2019. And on a revenue perspective, it's been just as impressive. They were doing $92 million in annual revenue in 2010, but now, pre-pandemic, we're doing nearly $300 million in annual revenue. And operating income, it's more of the same. The franchise was essentially barely breaking even or even losing money for most of the years between 2000 and 2010. But over the last decade, they've become one of the most profitable teams in the NBA, even making nearly $70 million in operating profit alone in 2018-2019. Of course, some of this financial outperformance is simply due to the rising tide that is overall NBA valuations. The average team has appreciated 330% over the last decade, but still, the Milwaukee Bucks have appreciated 500% over the last decade. There's a very simple reason for this. Media rights have skyrocketed, bringing up the average valuation of virtually every team in the league. But the Milwaukee Bucks have done things differently. And I don't think anything represents this more than the Deer District, a 30-acre property that surrounds their new arena, the Fiserv Forum. The concept behind the Deer District is pretty simple. It's essentially a small city located around their arena. There are restaurants, bars, and shops, and they are adding a luxury apartment building, a gym, a supermarket, and even a Marriott hotel. But here's the interesting part. The Milwaukee Bucks are now looking for a naming rights partner for the Deer District. They say they want to sign a 10-year deal worth $3 million to $4 million annually, or $30 million to $40 million over the course of 10 years. Now, I think that's probably a pretty fair price given the comps, but ultimately, I don't know where the price will end up. Instead, I think it's super interesting how the Bucks are leveraging their brand to build additional revenue streams outside of basketball. This isn't necessarily a new playbook. The Dallas Cowboys already have the Star. The St. Louis Cardinals have Ballpark Village. The Atlanta Braves have the Battery, and plenty of other professional sports teams own real estate around their arena, stadium, or ballpark. But I do think this speaks more to the ongoing dilemma in professional sports today. There have been revenue streams that have existed for decades. Think ticket sales, merchandise, concessions, etc. And now these teams are being forced to develop entirely new categories and revenue streams that they can appropriately monetize on an annual cash basis. That's not necessarily an easy task, but franchises like the Dallas Cowboys and the Golden State Warriors are quite literally writing the playbook in real time. They place their franchise as a centerpiece and leverage that existing brand and community to launch ancillary products and services that fortify their balance sheet and strengthen their offering. This is why crypto has infiltrated professional sports so quickly. These sports teams didn't have official crypto partners just 2 to 3 years ago, and it's allowed them to create entirely new revenue streams that were additive to their existing sponsorship inventory. That made it a no-brainer in my opinion, and I think this is probably just the start. Ultimately, professional sports teams are no longer pet projects for rich people to brag to about their friends. Sure, maybe there's still a little bit of that going on, but these are massive businesses now that are worth billions and billions of dollars, and they require 24/7 management and operational excellence if you want to win. So I think we're headed towards a world where they stop looking like sports teams and look more like traditional tech startups. And I think that's probably an exciting time.